confined to just issues around the Representation of the People Act. This is the electoral law element. And of course, that's significant because those offences are meant to be registered and investigated within 12 months. So of course, now we're talking about different things. We don't know, for instance, the kind of exact detail of what they're looking into, but one potential issue, if it's involving two different houses, is capital gains tax, of course, and there is no kind of statutory limit on that, which would mean that potentially you could see an investigation and potential criminal offences, etc., being committed, and it wouldn't have a time limit on it. And so that's what we're really interested in. I've just been talking to some Conservative MPs, and they say, you know, look, it's tax that really ought to be the thing that, if it's going to do for her, that's the thing that's going to do for her, because, you know, there is no limitation on that. And of course, that's the thing that did, for instance, for Nadeem Zahawi, and some of them are pushing now for an HMRC investigation as well. So I think this is quite a significant development tonight, and the Times also reveals that at least a dozen officers are involved in this. So it's quite a big investigation.
The political landscape has been rocked. Angela Rayner, once a rising star in Labour, now finds herself at the heart of a legal firestorm. Accused of using her position to manipulate elections and suppress Reform UK, she's facing courtroom scrutiny in a case that could send shockwaves through British democracy. But is this a genuine legal battle or a politically driven takedown? Let's dive into the details.
Yes, a last-minute change to the top of tonight's show, to that huge breaking news. The police investigation into Angela Rayner is examining multiple allegations and is not merely limited to potential electoral law offences. That's according to reports that have just come out this evening. A source has told The Times that at least a dozen officers at Greater Manchester Police are investigating the Labour deputy leader over where she lived in.
The exit poll results indicate a strong showing, highlighting Keir Starmer's efforts to reshape the Labour Party and solidify its appeal to working people. While the official results are still pending, if they align with the projections, Labour could secure a mandate to steer the country beyond years of political uncertainty.
Angela Rayner, she hasn't got the intellectual capacity. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but she just hasn't got the intellectual capacity to keep kind of telling fibs correctly. You know, if you're going to, all politicians lie, all politicians embellish, but you've got to have a certain amount of intelligence to make sure that those lies and embellishments all kind of like fit together properly. You know, so if you're challenged about each one of them individually, you can keep that lie or embellishment going, even if it's only a kind of white lie. With Angela Rayner, she just doesn't have the capacity, the mental capacity to do that properly. So she immediately stumbles. So one of the things that really made me laugh.
In a dramatic twist, Angela Rayner reportedly broke down in tears while defending her decision amid mounting backlash from opposition parties and legal experts questioning its legitimacy. The controversy centres on her move to postpone elections in 9 council areas. The Deputy Prime Minister confirmed that the May elections in these regions would be delayed, with new elections set for May 2026 as part of the transition from a 2-tier council system to unitary authorities.
Rumour when I heard that the Labour government, despite any manifesto commitment, want to completely change the shape of local government, and that is now being used by the Conservative Party, who in fact run most of the county councils, as a reason to cancel the elections. No, I'm not making it up. Over half of the county councillors in Britain have said, because these changes are coming, we want the elections cancelled on May the 1st. It looks like about 10 million of you who would have had the right to vote on that day will not.
The affected regions, East Sussex, West Sussex, Essex, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Norfolk, Suffolk and Surrey, will see over 5 million residents unable to vote this year. The decision to cancel local elections for such a large population has sparked widespread outrage. However, the government defends it as part of a broader effort to reorganise local governance. The Housing, Communities and Local Government Secretary has encouraged more council areas, particularly those covering both county and district councils, to transition to unitary authorities. Additionally, 7 new devolution areas have been proposed, with plans for mayoral elections in May 2026 across Cumbria, Cheshire and Warrington, Greater Essex, Hampshire, Norfolk and Suffolk, Sussex and Brighton and Lancashire.
I think this is absolutely monstrous. We haven't heard a big debate about it because both Labour and the Conservatives agree. They are terrified of the rise of reform. They know just how well we're going to do on May the 1st, and they've cancelled the elections in many of our strongest areas. Well, I promise you, we will fight those that are still up. We will do well, but I'm pretty angry This denial of our democracy is something that is fundamentally un-British, anti-British, it's undemocratic, and it shows how rotten the whole system is now in British politics. There is no doubt in my mind, when you look at it, that Britain...
Addressing Parliament, Angela Rayner defended the decision, stating that some regions required extensive preparation for devolution and restructuring, leading certain areas to request election delays. But imagine the reaction if Nigel Farage were Prime Minister and Reform UK had taken power, only to postpone local elections until May 2026. The backlash would be swift and fierce, yet this is precisely what has unfolded under Labour's leadership. Rayner emphasised that the government's default position was to hold elections unless there was a strong justification for postponement, with a high threshold for approval. She revealed that only half of the postponement requests had been granted after thorough consideration to ensure alignment with the government's devolution agenda. She argued that proceeding with elections for councils set to be dissolved would be an irresponsible use of taxpayer funds.
Angela Rayner's devolution revolution sounds almost as dreary as it actually is. She looks now set because lots of areas are being reorganised with a view to everyone having an elected mayor. Already, I believe Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire have been assigned mayors, or at least they will be allowed to vote for their mayors. Also up for this are Hampshire, Sussex, Kent, Essex and Cheshire and others, all earmarked to become areas with elected mayors. Now, that's okay, I suppose, although I do worry. I just feel that, you know, the more you devolution sounds great, but the more you devolve, the more you make government local government preside over national government, the more difficult a country becomes to govern. So I wonder whether or not we're going too far down this road. But the main point to make here is Angela Rayner, funnily enough, said, oh, these areas that are getting reorganised, well, they were going to have their local elections in May, along with the rest of the local councils of this country. But maybe they won't have them now while they're in the process of reorganisation. Perhaps if they feel, you know, that this reorganisation will somehow or other make it difficult to have these elections, they should let us know and we won't have those elections. In other words, that's the way Angela Rayner is plotting to get out of the inevitable humiliation that the Labour Party will suffer come May, because they're going to get a shellacking in the local elections. They're going to get humiliated. So what's she trying to do? She's trying to stop the elections. It's outrageous.
Many critics see a clear double standard. Labour has long accused the Conservative government of corruption, cronyism and wasteful spending, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the party faces its own allegations of manipulating the electoral system for political gain. Rayner has challenged opponents to justify the expense of holding elections under these circumstances, but Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has denounced the delays, calling them a direct assault on democracy and accusing Rayner of blatant election interference. Of the affected councils, all but one were under Conservative control, with Reform UK expected to gain significant traction in key areas like Essex and Thurrock. Meanwhile, Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Henry condemned Rayner's decision, arguing that it would consolidate power rather than promote genuine devolution. In Parliament, Henry pushed back against Rayner's justification, asserting that she wasn't eliminating outdated governance structures, but instead creating new strategic authorities designed to align with Labour's central government. He called the move a calculated political manoeuvre, branding it an attempt to impose an unpopular socialist agenda under the guise of local governance reform.
Fairly vague lines in the Labour manifesto talking about increasing devolution, but nothing on the scale of what's been foisted upon these counties. And so there's 9 councils, mixture of counties and unitaries, that have had their request to cancel their elections accepted. There were a number of other councils that tried. And quite frankly, it's a disgrace. We live in a democracy. Part of being in a democracy is the ability to vote in our elected representatives, but also, crucially, vote them out. And the councillors that were elected or the last time this set of councillors were elected was back in 2021. It was the height of Boris's kind of vaccine bounce. The political context has changed very dramatically since then, as we all know. And we think that even if the government and councils want to go ahead with these structural changes, we think these elections should be used as an opportunity for those people who want to carry on those negotiations to get the mandate to deliver the change they want. If you want to take on more powers, then you need to also be held to account for the way that you've exercised the powers you've already had. So in Essex, in Surrey, in Hampshire, Isle of Wight, and Sussex, these councillors are getting away with the ability to hide from their electorate, and that's outrageous. 5.5 million people are being denied their right to vote.
And I've been asking about this story for quite a while to try and figure out exactly what the new structures will look like, and I can't find anyone that can tell me.
Polling expert Lord Hayward has claimed that Angela Rayner's decision to postpone certain local elections effectively blocked Reform UK's strongest opportunity to secure its first council. According to him, Nigel Farage's party, rising in national polls, was on track to take control of Thurrock Council if the elections had proceeded as planned. With Thurrock identified as a key battleground, the delays have become a major flashpoint in the growing controversy. Thurrock has long been a stronghold for UKIP, and these elections could have marked a significant breakthrough for Reform UK. By pushing them back, Rayner has effectively prevented what could have been a high-profile Labour defeat, avoiding headlines that might have dominated the political landscape in May. Currently, Thurrock Council consists of 27 Labour councillors, 13 Conservatives and 9 Independents, with all seats originally up for grabs. Reform UK had already gained momentum in the area, with James McMurdo winning a seat as the party's MP for South Basildon and East Thurrock in the last general election. The party also secured second place in the Thurrock parliamentary constituency, further solidifying its presence. However, with the council now set to merge with other parts of Essex to form a new unitary authority following its bankruptcy last year, Reform UK's path to local power remains uncertain.
About the cancelling of these elections, you call it the cowardice of the political class. It's 9 areas, isn't it, that are having their elections delayed as a result of this kind of what you might call restructuring, if you like, of some regions. But I mean, when they were standing for government, I don't remember them talking about doing this. I mean, I might have missed it somewhere in the manifesto, but was there any notion that this was going to happen until relatively recently?
There might have been a couple of
On Wednesday, Angela Rayner announced the postponement of local elections in 9 council areas, a decision that has sparked fierce opposition from Reform UK. The party insists that the elections should proceed as scheduled, arguing that the move undermines democracy and reflects a government unwilling to face electoral competition. With legal challenges ongoing, the political fallout from Rayner's decision could have serious and lasting consequences for her position in government. Meanwhile, a recent poll has revealed record-breaking support for Reform UK. The survey places Nigel Farage's party in the lead at 29%, marking a 2-point increase from the previous week. Labour follows at 25%, while the Conservatives have dropped 3 points to 18%. The Liberal Democrats have gained 2 points, reaching 13%, while the Greens remain steady at 10%. Conducted among 2,487 British adults, the poll marks a significant moment for Reform UK. Party chairman Zulfikar Yusuf described the results as a huge shift, emphasising that it was the first time Conservative support had fallen below 20% in a major poll, with Reform UK edging closer to the 30% mark.
If there was a general election tomorrow, more people would vote for Nigel Farage and Reform than would vote for the Conservatives. And this is the very first time a poll has found this, for Labour as well. Nigel Farage, up until now, has led what I think you could...
This surge in polling comes in the wake of the controversial election delays, intensifying suspicions about the government's motives. Nearly all the affected councils were under Conservative control, with Reform UK expected to gain significant ground in these areas. Polling experts suggest that Angela Rayner's decision to postpone the elections in Thurrock may have blocked Reform UK's best shot at securing council control. Given Thurrock's history of supporting UKIP, allowing the elections to proceed could have provided Reform UK with the breakthrough they were seeking. With the postponement, many voters feel stripped of their opportunity for political change. Meanwhile, the legal battle over Rayner's decision continues, with accusations that she intentionally delayed the elections to curb Reform UK's momentum. As scrutiny grows over whether her actions were politically motivated, Rayner remains firm, arguing that the delays were necessary to ensure a smooth transition in local governance.
Not good news for Labour this morning. Apparently, they've slumped into third place. That's according to a recent voting intentions poll. They trail the Conservatives, and here's the really sharp bit. For the first time, they're trailing Nigel Farage's Reform UK.
As the controversy deepens, the UK's political landscape continues to evolve. The coming months will determine whether Reform UK can sustain its momentum or if Labour can weather the backlash and retain its grip on power. For more updates like this, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.